Ronald Read swept floors and pumped gas his entire life. When he died, he had $8 million. Richard Fuscone had a Harvard degree and a career on Wall Street. He died broke. Same country. Same decade. The only difference was how their brains handled money. Two men. Two completely different starting points. And the one with less education, less money, less status, outlasted the one who had everything. That's not a fluke. It's not luck. It's biology. Because here's the uncomfortable truth, wealth was never really about intelligence. It's about behavior. And behavior is shaped by parts of your brain that don't care about spreadsheets. Start with what your brain thinks of your future self. Not metaphorically, literally. When researchers scanned people's brains while they imagined their life decades from now, something strange happened. The brain processed that future version of themselves the same way it processes a complete stranger. Think about what that means. Saving money isn't really saving for you. To your brain, it feels like giving your money away to someone you've never met. No wonder it feels so hard. You're not being lazy. You're fighting a neurological disconnect. That's present bias, the pull to grab a reward now rather than a bigger one later. It kept our ancestors alive when resources were scarce and tomorrow wasn't guaranteed. But in a world of steady paychecks and credit limits, that same wiring quietly sabotages every long-term goal you set. And it gets more specific than that. Your brain doesn't treat every purchase the same way. Scientists have scanned people's brains mid-transaction, once paying with cash, once with a credit card. Cash barely registered. But credit cards lit up the striatum, the exact reward circuit tied to addictive behavior. Swiping isn't just convenient. It's dopamine. So when you feel that little rush before checking out online, that's not imagination. That's your brain, treating the anticipation of buying almost like a drug, and the actual purchase barely registering at all once it arrives. The high is in the chase, not the having. Which is exactly why the next purchase always feels necessary. Now layer on identity. Losing money doesn't just hurt financially, it hurts about twice as much emotionally as gaining the same amount feels good. So when spending less means looking less successful, most people would rather go into debt than downgrade. It's not really about the money anymore. It's about who you're afraid to become in other people's eyes. This is where Richard Fuscone's story makes sense. He wasn't undereducated. He understood markets better than almost anyone. But understanding markets isn't the same as controlling yourself inside one. He leveraged himself into real estate that looked impressive and performed terribly the moment liquidity disappeared. His brain was brilliant. His emotional regulation wasn't. Compare that to Ronald Read. No financial degree. No insider information. Just decades of quietly buying stable stocks and never touching them, never needing the world to see what he owned. He wasn't smarter than Fuscone. He was less emotionally hijacked by status. And this isn't just a story about two men. It's a pattern playing out across entire countries right now. In the United States, nearly half of households earning six figures still live paycheck to paycheck, not from lack of income, but from a culture engineered to make spending frictionless. In the UK, even after auto-enrolling millions into pensions, most people still default to the bare minimum contribution, simply because changing it takes effort. In Canada, households now carry $1.80 of debt for every dollar they actually have, chasing a version of success tied to real estate. In Australia, spending has shifted from things to experiences, which feels healthier, but drains savings just as effectively, especially once it's broadcast for others to see. Different countries. Same underlying force, environments built to exploit a brain that was never designed for delayed gratification in the first place. So if it's not intelligence, and it's not information, what actually separates the people who build wealth from the people who don't? It's not a system. It's not a formula. It's something far smaller, far more repetitive, and far easier to overlook: happening in ordinary moments, thousands of times over, long before anyone notices the pattern it's creating. And once you understand what that pattern actually is, you'll start noticing it everywhere, in your own bank statements, in your own habits, in the exact moments you tell yourself, just this once. Which raises a much harder question: if your brain is working against you by design, is discipline really a choice? Or is it something that has to be engineered around you, the same way entire countries are now trying to do? So maybe discipline isn't really a personality trait at all. Maybe it's just what's left over once someone stops fighting a brain that was never built for spreadsheets and compound interest. That changes the question, doesn't it? We tend to think poor financial decisions come from bad character, laziness, impulsiveness, a lack of willpower. But Ronald Read and Richard Fuscone prove that's backwards. One had almost nothing and built a fortune. The other had everything and lost it. The difference was never intelligence. It was which one understood the trap they were standing in. And that raises something more specific, a single mental trap, quiet enough to go unnoticed, that keeps the majority of people stuck no matter how much they earn. It's not laziness. It's not bad luck. It's something almost everyone falls into without realizing it, which is exactly why it's so hard to escape. That's exactly what we're breaking down next. 90% of people stay poor because of this one mental trap.